Welcome to Shomach Shov on the Daf. Shir sponsor Lunishma Sam Yaakvashom Labas Yitzchok. We're holding Basra Daf Kuf Samech. The Gemara Amud Beis explain what is the idea of get mekusher. Why they have this get, which is done in a way which takes a very long time to do, because in that place the Kohanim were kapte, they were very angry, and they would divorce their wives very quickly out of anger. And therefore, they need to make it a long process so they can calm down and change their mind. Because once a Kohen divorces his wife, he can return her. Now this leads to an interesting discussion in Halacha. The Ramah brings, in the end of Siman, Shin Lamed Gimel Chosh HaMishpat, that if a person does some kind of transaction in anger, meaning he's very angry, that's why he does something. He fires somebody out of anger, so we say that it has no effect. Because what happens in anger is not considered to be a kidney. So Toras Chaim over here brings a raya from our Gemara against the Ramah. Because you see over here that the Kohanim wrote the get out of anger and it still works. So you see that anger is not a reason to say that a kidney is not chal. So the Chazal Sofer in Tshuva in Chosh HaMishpat Siman Kuf Lamed, he brings this Toras Chaim and he by the way, he says that on the side, he said, really, it's not really such a question. The Toras Chaim's question from our Gemara is not a question, and really you can answer it very easily, and then he goes on to say another point about it. What does the Chazal Sofer mean? So, in Shas V'Tshuvas Doiviv Mishorim, Chalak Beis Siman Lamed Ches, he explains that what the Chazal Sofer means is that there's a big difference between what the Ramah talking about and our Gemara. The Ramah talking about that someone had a one time that he got very angry. He went out of his normal nature, he got angry. So we say he lost control, he didn't really mean to say what he said. But the Kohanim Kapti means that is their nature. Meaning that's how they conduct themselves always. It's not a temporary anger. So when a person loses control of himself and he suddenly gets very angry, so then you say maybe any Kinyani was nachal. But Kohanim, that's who they are. They're kapte. So then Kinyanim are chal. That's how the Shudav Misharim explains. And this concept and this idea that the Kohanim, that's their nature, this connects and is explained more in the Yaros Dvash of Yonis Abishitz and Jush Aleph. And he says a big yesod. He says like this: always, whatever is more kadosh, the holier it is, so the less anger there is. Says Anshe Yerushalayim, the place with the biggest kedusha, there's no anger. That's what it says. It was never too crowded because everybody loved each other. There was no anger. And explains that's the reason you don't bring an Egla Rufa from Yerushalayim. Because Egla Rufa is because maybe somebody got angry, maybe someone who was a murderer. And Yerushalayim, you don't have that problem because Yerushalayim there's no anger because the kedusha is so strong. Says the Chazal Sofer, that's all only as long as the Kedusha is strong. But if the Kedusha leaves, so Mimele Adrabah, a place that there was Kedusha, and it had specific mile of being without Kas, once the Kedusha leaves, then Adrabah, the Kas gets much stronger. And that's a klal, it's brought down in Sefer Kabbalah a lot. Wherever there's a big Kedusha and the Kedusha leaves, so then the Tumah comes into it. We learned it in one of the Shiurim. That's the reason a person who dies, so he becomes the biggest Tumah in the world. Why? Because Adam who's alive, it's the biggest Kedusha in the world. Once the Neshama leaves, so then all the Tumah comes. As if the Tumah is looking to catch on to something where Kedusha was. So it says in Habish, that's a pshat over here as well. Once the Kedusha leaves, the Kas is the greatest. And that's a pshat in Yerushalayim, that it says in the Pasuk, Tzedek Yolin Ba, which means talk of a chesed, ve'ato miratzchim. Then there's murderers in Yerushalayim. Because once the Kedusha goes away, that's when you have Kas. Zok the Yaros Vash, that's what happened with Kohanim. When the Kohanim were acting b'kedusha, so Adarabo, the Kohanim come from Sitra de Chesed, they belong to Chesed and Rachamim, and there's no anger. And Aaron HaKohen is the one who personifies Oyev Shalom v'Roidev Shalom. But when the Kedusha is gone, when they become Choitim, so Adarabo, that's when they become Kabdonim. So that natural thing that they have, that they're angry, is the anger comes when there's no Kedusha. It's naturally, it's not some one-time event. When Kedusha goes away, so that's when Kas comes in. This is the biggest yesod of the Yaros Dvash. Anyone who wants to join Shomach Shova email list to what's to go, please email shomachshova@gmail.com.